Welcome to Backstage with Randy Phillips. I am Randy Phillips. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I want to hear from you. Email me with your comments, thoughts, and questions, podcast@life.family. Or find us on social channels at Life Family Media. Guess what? It's season 2. And I'm eager for you to hear from my guest, Rick Reynolds. Rick has an incredible heart to help those whose marriages are struggling specifically with infidelity and betrayal through his ministry, Affair Recovery. Whether you're in a tough spot in your relationship or you know someone who is, you're going to learn some invaluable tools from his authenticity and his wisdom. But before we do that, you know what time it is. Time to subscribe to the show, comment, and leave us a great review. Who knows? We might even read your comments live on the show. So let us know exactly what you're thinking. Are you ready? Let's go backstage with Rick Reynolds. Hi, I'm Randy Phillips, and you've joined us for Backstage with Randy Phillips. We go backstage. We hear behind the scenes stuff, the nitty gritty of being an artist, singer on the road. What's it like to be on the bus? We hear from different ministers, nonprofit leaders, poets, authors, everybody. But we go kind of like, not what's known about it, but what's unknown about what they do. And today, very special guest, Rick Reynolds. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Randy.
Love the hat.
Thank you so much. Picked it up in Ecuador back a couple of months ago.
Not Texas.
Not Texas.
But you're from Texas.
But I am from Texas, yes.
Ecuador's a long way from Texas.
Yes, it is. And did you know that Panama hats actually are from Ecuador, not from Panama? So just
I didn't know.
Little known fact.
Thank you for that, Rick. You have whoever's listening, watching, that you just made their day. It was a little known fact.
Mm-hmm.
Just a bonus. That's a bonus of what it means to be backstage with Randy Phillips. Okay, Rick, you're the only business I've ever wanted to put out of business.
Thank you.
Is that bad?
That is so cool. That would be, if you could put me out of business, I'd be thrilled.
I'll put you out of business. Why would I want to do that?
Well, because the business I'm in is treating couples that have been impacted by infidelity and trying to help them put their lives back together and find new lives of meaning and purpose. But I'd rather them not fall into that ditch.
Crossroads Counseling in Austin is a premier counseling agency my wife and I have been to. I've sent so many couples there.
Well, thank you.
And all of your, what would you call them, therapists?
Yeah.
They're amazing.
I am the most blessed man when it comes to the people that God has placed around me, Randy. I have amazing talent.
All right, so you've got the Crossroads Counseling that helps couples. Then you've got Affair Recovery.
Yes.
And what's that?
So Affair Recovery happened, began back in the early 2000s when the Lord very clearly said to me, I want you to work with 50,000 couples annually dealing with infidelity.
That's it. Say that again. How many?
He said to me he wanted me to work with 50,000 couples annually who had been impacted by infidelity.
From all over the country?
All over the world.
All over the world?
Yeah. Well,
so they come here?
Well, no.
To Texas?
Well, some do. I mean, so basically to scale to 50,000 couples, we had to be able to find a way to treat couples online so that we could actually scale to that size.
Yeah, 50,000. That hurts my brain to think about that.
It is a lot.
So much that goes out of you impacting them. Thank you for what you do. you shook me up one time of many times. Every time I meet you, you shake me up. But once, your definition of infidelity and mine was completely different. I thought my definition was infidelity in marriage was being unfaithful to your covenant partner sexually. But that's not how you define it.
Not at all.
How do you define it?
We define infidelity as the keeping of secrets. It is when you...
Now, what does that mean?
Well, so let's say it could be you're having an affair with somebody. Sexually. And you certainly probably are not going to be honest with your mate about that. But it could also be looking at porn. It could be seeing prostitutes. It could be a one-night stand. It could be an emotional affair. It could be multiple emotional affairs. I mean, in theory, there could be like financial infidelity, but still.
Infidelity, in a broader, how you define it, is not, it includes sexual promiscuity, but it is the keeping of secrets.
Yeah, it's the keeping of secrets because that is what does the damage to the betrayed partner. If you think about it, God made us to be one.
Yes.
We are, all the way back to Genesis chapter 2.
Yes.
And whenever somebody is keeping secrets and their partner finds out, then it creates this massive rupture in that oneness.
Okay.
They realize they've been deceived. And because we're one of the things that happens, it undoes the person who's been betrayed, who feels that they were in the dark and they feel like a fool. They don't trust you. They don't trust themselves. They don't trust their future. They don't trust anything. They don't know what's going on. And it's very, very damaging psychologically.
Well, thank you for that. That's so, you helped me rethink about the keeping the secret versus just, because I know a lot of people who felt like no one's getting hurt here.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm not hurt. I'm not physically acting out, but it's the keeping of secrets. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you for that. All right. Do you ever get every hour on the hour, there's another couple sitting out in your lobby?
Yeah.
Do you ever look out there and go, I wish so badly this lobby could be empty?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want you to lose revenue.
No,
however,
you know what? I'm old. You know what? I would be good to lose revenue. At the same time, so I am. I hate it, but at the same time, I know that what God's called me to is being able to help those couples. It's a ministry of reconciliation. I mean,
that's what it is.
Actually, if you think about it, it's low pitch softball.
Yeah.
It's people are coming in desperate, not knowing what to do, completely traumatized, devastated, and talk about in need of something different. And so it's about the easiest task because we figure if we can work with 50,000 couples a year, we also have the opportunity to present the gospel 50,000 times a year.
So I call you. You're my go-to whenever I have a couple in crisis, and usually the secretary, the assistant, he's not taking any more new customers. I said, tell him this is Randy Phillips.
And I'll take
And
them.
somehow or another, you say, fine, he'll see him. So I try not to do that much.
It's okay.
But here's the deal. I came in with a couple, like they were devastated, infidelity in the sexual sense, just like a funeral. They asked me to go with them to come see you.
Right.
And I said, well, you don't need me to, would you please? Sure. So he was a personal friend of mine. So I went with the couple. It was like a funeral mourning. They're sitting there. We're all sitting in the room. They're weeping. I'm sitting there, don't quite know what to do. You come bouncing in the room like I remember you rubbing your hands together. All right. Let's go. Let's get with this. And I was like, what in the world is happening? All right, how? Here I am sitting there like a funeral director, and you come bouncing in the room like, hey, we're going to get some ice cream. How do you arrive? You just sing so much.
Yeah, and the thing about it, man, you talk about a hopeless situation.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, Randy, I get to sit on the 50-yard line of life and watch God work miracles. And I mean, what better? I mean, who could ever say God doesn't still do miracles?
I know.
I see it every blooming day.
Yeah.
And, at affairrecovery.com, it's like I get to see it through the comments. I mean, there's so many. Think about thousands of people, and you get to see what's happening with that many people.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes. I shock people sometimes when I say this, but you're not shockable. You just heard too much. God is a divorcee.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And his wife had an affair on him.
Right.
Israel.
Right.
And he gave her a divorce.
Uh-huh.
And then he married, thankfully, a Gentile girl, the church. Oh, thank the Lord for that. But if anyone knows the heartache of what an affair does to a heart, it would be the Lord. I think that's why he said, I hate it.
Right. I know that's why he said, I hate it. And at the same time, it's the fact that he understands that, I think, to me, gives us hope. I mean, it's like, you also can survive.
Yes.
And I think that's the message.
And thrive.
And thrive. And that's the message we tell people all the time, that God's specialty is taking the pain that has come from that betrayal and use it as a catalyst to help transform you to a whole new level, to become somebody you never dreamed possible. But you don't get there, unless a seed dies and falls to the ground, right?
Can't live
It can't live. And it's that the best marriages I know, Randy, are marriages that have gone through infidelity, for sure.
Is there anything that shocks you these days? Or are you beyond shockable? You've heard everything.
I actually will tell people, and I don't say this to boast or anything, that if you can come up with something I haven't heard, I'll give you 6 months worth of free therapy. I mean, there's a 6-month offer of free
6
therapy.
months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give.
And no one has come up with anything yet.
Not in a long time. I'm not even going to mention
No, Lord,
what I've seen.
Okay, so do you see more? You may know the exact statistic. Just throwing a dart. Are women struggling the most recently, or is it men with infidelity? What would you say? Or is it 50-50?
So, you know what? I should have had one of my guys run some statistics for you. I didn't think about that. So we gather a lot of statistics. My experience is the number of women who have strayed actually is increasing. I remember recently one of the weekends we had, so the majority of our courses, can I tell you a little bit about how Fair Recovery works? There's a lot of free resources at affairrecovery.com just to help people stabilize. Like one of them is called First Steps Boot Camp, where it actually gives 7 days of direction, takes them through a course to help them not leave each other. There's an affair analyzer so people can understand their situation. All of that's free. But we also have courses. There's a course for the betrayed partner, a course for the one who is wayward, who strayed, and there's also a course for the married couples. Yeah. However, there's also one weekend we do a month, and people come in from all over the world.
Yes.
But that's small. We only deal with 30 couples a month.
And what's that called?
That's called EMS.
Yeah, I've sent a lot of people to that.
A lot of people go to EMS, and we have EMS weekend and we have EMS online. The EMS online is 13 weeks, and the EMS weekend is 3 days.
Phenomenal.
But with the online courses, what we've learned, you know what? The Lord teaches this, by the way. If we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we'll have fellowship with one another in the blood of Jesus, right? I mean, 1 John 1. Yes. We've learned community is everything. People heal in community far better than they do even with an individual counselor. Community is crucial. And that's what God made us to be in community, right? And when we can get people in a cohort, even virtually, I mean, we protect these people's anonymity. We don't even use video so that people can feel totally safe.
Yeah.
But when we put them in there with 4 or 5 other couples going through the same thing, it is amazing how healing it is to know that you're not the only one. In fact, there are others just like you. In fact, you don't have to feel shame anymore. You actually feel like these are your people. They might not have been the people you chose.
They're your people.
But they're your people. And that...
Okay.
And it's even... Can I say one more thing? Y'all can...
Of course.
Yeah. So here's the thing about being in community. This is just interesting neuroscience that's come out in the last few years. When someone is in community, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, that's the part of our brain that helps us emotionally regulate when we've been traumatized, is completely offline. Now, if that couple is home alone talking, that thing is lit up like a Christmas tree. But when you're sitting in a group of 4 or 5 other people, or you're online on a call, it doesn't even operate. Literally, that community carries the load. And that's what community does for us.
That.
It helps us walk through this. It's
I love that.
Our strength.
Oh, I love that. 72 times the Lord said in the New Testament, written in the New Testament, one another.
One another. Absolutely.
Pray for one another. Encourage one another. 72 one
Breaking
another.
bread together. I mean, they were in community in Acts.
Okay. So I think what got you going down this trail, is it more women or more men you're seeing today?
So I was going to say,
if you went into your office right now, is it more men, more women?
I would probably see it's some of that
You don't
fluctuates.
have to. It don't have to.
No,
be
so I would say it's probably closer to 40, 60%.
40 men or 40?
40 women, 60 men.
But it's increasing in women.
Yes.
And why? Because the stereotypical straying spouse is the man.
Right.
So why are women straying? Looking outside their covenant.
Well, I think that there are a lot of things in society that have created it. It's been a shift probably for 50, 60 years. Part of it, when the women left the office pool and began to interact, as peers, which I think is great. However, businesses did not necessarily set up boundaries to make it safe. So there was a lot of opportunity.
Right.
And that is one big switch. I think that with the women's movement, the liberation movement, what's happened is there's been gender role confusion. I think that's for both. But there's a lot of opportunity.
Okay.
I can not name corporations. I won't say their names, but some of them, because of the way they even do business, Randy, where the way they will have get-togethers, but they won't include spouses, or they let men and women travel together, or it's really easy for that to happen.
Right. What is the difference? What is a man looking for outside of his covenant generally versus what a woman is looking for outside of her covenant?
Okay, so I need to be careful. Generally. It's generalization.
Okay.
So typically when I see a man that's having an affair, generally, the male, it's almost like he's compartmentalized. He still wants the marriage. He still loves his wife. It's almost like he's committed to stay, but he's not committed not to stray. And then suddenly when, his wife finds out and kicks him through the goalpost of life, and cardboard boxes are a great motivator for guys, then they immediately, I think it's almost like 72 or 73% of men will want to come back into the relationship.
Okay.
The vast majority of the time. Women, and I think it's more shameful for women.
Yeah.
So when a woman has an affair, there's this stigma. So they do a lot more justification by kind of catastrophizing the marriage. They have to justify. So they've really disconnected from the marriage, and they've told themselves there's absolutely no hope and there's no way they can ever get their desire back for their mate. They're out of love. They've fallen in love with someone else.
Yeah.
So women are more disconnected oftentimes by the time they have that affair, and are far more ambivalent about coming back. So they need to learn that even if they get into a relationship with someone, it is more than possible to get that desire back again. That love waxes and wanes. You've been married. How long you been married now? Long time?
39 years.
Yep. So you know it's a this in marriage.
Lord.
It goes up and down. You fall in love, you fall out of love, you fall
Lord,
back in love. And so when people tell him, so there ain't no way that can happen. There's no way. That's nuts. Here, and I can tell you exactly how to do it. And that's what helps, them when they can finally see it's doable. But just think about if you save 50,000 marriages a year,
Dear Lord.
what it does to families and what it does to children and to the future of our country. I mean, that makes a difference.
So men stray sometimes mostly for pleasure, and women mostly because they don't.
They're disappointed. And again,
love.
that is such a broad overgeneralization.
I know it.
But some guys also fall out. I mean, they're bad. We always say that bad marriages never cause an affair. They may be a factor, but if you're in a miserable marriage, maybe a marriage could take as much as a third of kind of a contributor, but it's not all of it. There's brokenness in anybody ultimately who can't keep a commitment.
Yeah. Okay. So as a preacher, sometimes people are, how can I get out of my marriage? I state the 3 A's. That's what I was taught.
Right. That's what I was taught.
Adultery, abandonment, and I can't remember the other one.
Abuse.
Abuse.
Yeah, adultery, abandonment.
Abuse. You don't stay there if you're being abused.
Right.
If you've been abandoned, she left. And an affair, adultery. But I've kind of taken that. There's hope.
Oh yeah.
So 2 out of 3, I think. Yes, leave, but I just like stay there. Get help. Can we help? Can I get you to see Rick? Is the not abandonment and not abuse? If it's only an affair, can the marriage be saved? Usually.
Well, yeah, it depends. So the person that had the affair obviously has to be broken, and they need to repent, and they need to,
Yes.
or they need to be invited. They need to at least give it a shot. But there are reasons. Just because there's an affair, it doesn't mean there's not something worth salvaging.
Yes.
There can be a lot worth salvaging. There's a history. There are children. There's family.
Yes.
It's just most people don't know it's possible. So when they can at least find out, consider the possibility that maybe there's something worth salvaging. But it's a long journey, Randy. I mean, we always say, and this is optimistic, so I don't want to discourage them, there's going to probably be an 18 to 24-month journey with a community, with people. Not that it's bad for 18 to 24 months. It gets better pretty fast, but infidelity is such a profound, life-altering event. It reorganizes your life. Everybody will talk about their time before the affair and the time after the affair. In the same way we talk about there's the time before 9/11, there's a time after 9/11, time before COVID, time after COVID. It's a life changer in that sense. And so you have to know that if there's something that significant, there will be ramifications, and there's going to be trauma, and there's going to be triggers, there's going to be reminders, and you're going to have to heal from that. And if you're willing to go through that process, then it's the majority of the time, it certainly can be redeemed.
That's so good to hear. Thank the Lord for that. Those of you that are listening to the podcast, watching the podcast, there's hope for you. There's hope for you. I get is it a newsletter or something called Hope Now?
Yeah.
I get that from you.
Yeah, Hope Now.
I read every one of them.
Hope. I don't know if you saw the one yesterday.
Yes, I did.
About the emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse. Outstanding.
So when you send out a newsletter, people really don't want to get a newsletter from Affair Recovery. We have what's called a rather high blush factor.
Yeah.
So Hope Now
sounds a lot better.
Is what we send all of our correspondence
from. So people wanting to get this, because you should get this newsletter, and it has a podcast attached.
Yeah.
So where do they go?
So if they just go to afairrecovery.com.
Well, what if they don't want to do that? They don't want that in their history, whatever you call it.
They're still going to have to go to afairrecovery.com to get the newsletter. But there's places.
Afairrecovery.com.
Yeah.
And then they get the newsletter, Hope Now.
Hope Now. It doesn't come, nothing comes from us as afairrecovery.com.
Okay. Get that, because it is so good. Particularly if you're recovering, if you've had a spouse that's broken your heart, you want to trust again, love again, read this, get this. Oh, it's so good. It's educated me.
Yeah, and I just think one of the things I want to say is we work with couples who are 17 years out, 20 years out, 24 years out from some sort of infidelity who have never healed. And
wow.
If you're that far out, for heaven's sake, come. Those are the ones that there's hope for that too. It's just they didn't do the right type of work to be healed.
Okay. You ever walk into your counseling office and the couple's sitting there devastated? You've done this so many times. You've seen everything. Do you know immediately they're going to be okay versus I'm not sure?
No, not at all. So, we just finished an EMS weekend, and so we had 30 couples. And on Friday morning, you can look at those couples and we'll meet Friday night and everybody's going, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure about this. This is the one I have the least amount of hope for. And it's that Tony Campolo thing. It's Friday, but Sundays are coming. Easter's here, man. And I can guarantee you probably, the 95% of the time, those couples that come in who have already filed for divorce, that they're end of their journey, are sitting there hugging and crying on Sunday.
Goodness.
And
Thank
to
you,
me,
Jesus.
that is the miracle.
That's a miracle.
It really is. That doesn't mean that everything's hunky-dory.
No.
But we stay with our couples for an entire year at least afterwards. We don't just stop at a weekend or a course.
That's outstanding.
We want them to keep working together. We want to walk beside them as they learn how to do it different.
Oh, my goodness. All right. I've taken too much of your time. This has been so helpful. So if you're wanting to affair-proof your marriage, what would you say, what practical things would you say to men and women about affair-proofing? Don't let the enemy get in here.
So I don't know that you can affair-proof a marriage, but you certainly can affair-proof yourself.
Okay, let's talk
How do you about that.
Yourself?
First off, don't be stupid.
Okay.
People never fail because they're weak. People only get into trouble because they're strong and they put themselves in situations that are really high risk. And for some reason, that because of their pride, they think they can handle it. But if you begin to accept that apart from Jesus, you can't do anything anyway, and you don't put yourself in stupid situations, bad things won't happen.
So stupidity.
That's pretty big on the list.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, I got several of them. What are your boundaries? So how do you interact with people? I tell the people I work with, don't go hugging people at work. Don't sit there and if they're talking about scuba diving, don't say you want to learn to scuba dive too. Don't come up with common interests. Tell them that's great. Hope you enjoy the scuba diving. Don't keep talking to the same person of the opposite sex over and over. You may occasionally talk to them, but don't talk about your personal life.
Okay.
Keep a boundary there. They don't need to know about your personal life. You're not going to be a crotchety old guy if you're not talking about that stuff. Just be professional, for heaven's sake.
So a wall.
Yeah,
a barrier.
Good wall. You're always busy and keep pictures of your family. I mean, do you know what? At our company, at Fair Recovery, we don't even allow men and women to communicate through text or chat. Everything always has a third party. Mm-hmm. That way we know it's safe and nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
We want to maintain we want to make it to where it's not even possible.
That's great. So So stupidity,
Stupidity.
barriers,
So-
fencing,
Yes.
and common interest,
And bad habits.
bad habits.
Yeah, bad habits
What
would
would that be?
So like when you start talking to somebody like at a restaurant, let's say you've got a habit of just chatting it up with people.
I do that.
I know. And it also, you don't know how it impacts other people though.
Oh yeah.
So what
true.
we think a lot of times is I'm just being a nice guy. But like I was at a restaurant. Can I tell you a quick story? You have enough
course.
time? Quick
Yes,
story. Then you
yes.
cut it if you need.
No, we have time.
Quick story. So I was at a restaurant and this waitress had a really strange name. And I thought, I wonder where that came. That's so weird. And then I thought, part of me jumped up and said, but why would you ask her about her name? And I
Because
thought,
you're interested
because I'm
in her.
interested
And
in
you're
it.
curious.
Right, I'm curious. And then I thought, so
Is that bad?
well, no. So I started thinking, I thought, okay, so what good is it going to do her when I ask her about her name? Is it going to help her make more money if I hold her up when she's still trying to deal with 8 more tables? No, I'm just going to be taking her time. Is it going to help the couples or the other people at the other tables get their service faster if I hold her there for 5 minutes trying to get her to talk about
You go
her name?
through all that process?
Absolutely. And what the heck is my wife going to think as I'm chatting it up with a cute waitress with a strange name? And I thought, you know what? There's really not a lot of benefit
Okay.
in that.
So never mind your name.
But we have ways that we learn to relate as we were
Okay.
teenagers, right? With people, we just, or maybe we've always had those habits, but beginning to think about how
Okay.
are we impacting other people?
Man, that's so good. Oh, that's good. I love you, Rick. What a blessing you've been to me, to my church people, to so many couples. I have made you take a new customer.
All right, all right, all right.
Oh, well, I still want to put you out of business,
I would love it.
but is it just not in this broken world? Is monogamy not? Do you see? Is there any appreciable difference between a believer and a non-believer about straying?
So it's interesting to me, people with very strong moral codes, and this is from Romans chapter 7, where it says, until someone told me not to covet, I never had a problem with coveting. But once someone told me, once the law came,
all I wanted to
sin
do.
seizing the opportunity, put me to death.
Well, we have to talk about these things.
Yes, we
Rick.
do. Absolutely. But I do think oftentimes when you are trying really hard to be good, you end up just being tempted. I mean,
Okay.
there is going to be temptation. And the problem with what's happened with the internet, it is so much easier to have an affair now than it was even 20 or 30 years ago. I mean, completely easier. You have the secrecy of your own office, your own computer, your own. And so, that opportunity is there. So the temptation's going to be there. Learning and figuring out how you're going to respond to it.
Okay.
And also just being authentic with your mate. Temptation isn't the problem. I mean, God's the one who put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden. I mean,
She hadn't done that.
it would have been, but then we'd just be puppets and marionettes.
I know. So you don't see any appreciable difference in believer and unbeliever?
I don't.
Oh. You would think.
You would think.
I know. Okay.
I mean,
You would
I
think
wish.
that the Holy Spirit would make some sort of difference.
Well, I think that the Holy Spirit does make an appreciable difference as long as you're walking with the Holy Spirit.
Okay, that's good.
But in life, John 16:33, in this world, it ain't always going to go well.
No.
And sometimes when we get squeezed, especially depending on, I think, how we were raised, developmental trauma, there's so many factors that can play into why somebody cheats. But once you get squeezed, there's always going to be that temptation to do something that makes you feel better. I mean, heck, as long as life is giving you the blessings or your marriage is giving you the blessings that you want, you know what? There's no temptation. But whenever it quits giving you the blessings you want, and if you're miserable, it won't be long till the allure of something else comes.
Okay. Well, I have great hope for our people listening to this podcast that you'll love again, that you'll hope again, that you'll laugh again.
Yes.
And the tools that this man and his incredible, would you call it a ministry, or is it just
It's definitely, for me, it's a ministry. It's pretty funny. I remember Will Davis asked me once, he said, are you a pastor?
Yes. Yes,
and I said,
are.
yeah. And he said, okay, Bishop. And I'm going, come on.
Bishop Reynolds.
Yeah.
Well, I have and this has been so fascinating. And I wish I had more time. We'll have you back for part 2.
I hope.
Okay. You wear a different hat, or
I'll come with a different hat. I got a whole bunch of them.
Thank you for how you've helped me and so many people that I love. And I have great hope for you that if you're not married, this is just incredible information of how for guardrails, and then if you are and you have had this sadness happen to you, or you've caused sadness, brokenness, there's still hope.
Amen.
So I love you so much, Rick. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Randy, for just getting the word out.
Yes, sir. Bless you.
Bless you.
Rick Reynolds. Oh my goodness. I hope you took some notes today, and I hope you'll tell someone about this podcast, because it is invaluable. Like you heard, you can find out more from Rick and his team by visiting affairrecovery.com. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show and help us spread the word. If you're enjoying this podcast, tag us at Life Family Media on Instagram and Facebook. I'll be looking. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us for Season 2 of Backstage with Randy Phillips. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on social media to stay up to date on the release of Season 3.